Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. We're just going to wait a couple of moments while people join. So just bear with us for a minute or two while people join in. All right, we might kick us off. We've still got a few people joining in, but we'll get started for today's webinar. So thank you, everyone, for joining. My name's Jason Durden. I'm the Regional Director for SentinelOne in Australia and New Zealand. And today I'm joined by two of my esteemed colleagues. So thank you guys for joining. We have Pratik Bajanka, who is our APJ Field CISO. Hello, Pratik. And we have Wayne Phillips, who is our APJ Field CTO. Hello, Wayne. And so thanks, Wayne. Today's topic of the webinar is all about our brand new product launch, which is our Singularity data lake. And so the headline topic of today is really about how we're adopting a threat-based approach for SOC automation. And so we've got a couple of different parts throughout the webinar, so I'll just take you through that agenda now. So we'll start with a bit of an overview of what is the Singularity data lake and how does it work. Pratik's going to talk us through what's the industry saying and what's happening out there in the market. Why is security data lake really exploding? Wayne is going to take us through our vision for the Singularity platform, so you get a bit of an idea of your potential strategy with SentinelOne. And then we're going to have a fireside chat and Q&A to finish the webinar. So we've got a few topics that we're going to talk through in the fireside chat, but of course, we'd love your questions as well. So there's a Q&A section within the platform that you're viewing. So please, as we're going through, pop your questions in, and we'll either address them in the Q&A section or we'll go through them in the fireside chat. So please do that and bring us your curly questions for Wayne and Pratik to answer. All right, let's get into it. So I guess as part of our overall strategy with SentinelOne, naturally we're trying to solve some problems, right? And so if we look at the statements, or I guess the areas of concern that we're looking to address, this slide really captures those, right? So we're looking at everything from challenges with scalability. Traditional systems really struggle to both capture and normalize data. And so one of the value propositions of the architecture of SentinelOne is democratizing data for everyone, right? Making it more accessible, making it easier to understand, and making it more cost effective, right? And so that leads into the second pillar here, cost concerns. We're no longer having to worry, sort of penny pinching on what data should I accept, which data is more valuable than others based on a cost consideration. And so a lot of the advancements within security data lake technologies, and particularly the SentinelOne data lake, is we make the storage, compression, searching, and availability of the data much more cost effective, right? And we'll talk you through some of the architectural decisions, as to why that is the case. Flexibility and integration. There's a lot of discussion about consolidating platforms, how you get more value out of your existing platforms, and essentially how you do more with less. And so one of the value propositions across our technology is the SentinelOne platform has multiple different use cases depending on what you need to achieve. And we do that because we're extremely flexible and highly integrated. And so Wayne will also talk you through a little bit later the release of Marketplace 2.0 and what that brings to you guys as our customers. And the last piece here is the siloed data. And so I was reading a report recently where it was a survey of about 250 organizations, 69% of them don't capture up to 30 to 40% of their data because of both complexity and cost and operations. And so having those individual disparate silos creates both complexity, but also creates gap or security gap, right? And it's always, as a kind of an age-old saying in security, it's always the unprotected asset which gets compromised. Data is no different, right? So the unviewed or uncontrolled data is always the blind spot that we need to solve. The way we think about data is multi-purpose. And so this is a great opportunity for us with our customers and our partners to provide value across all different types of use cases with data, but also teams and segments. So you can kind of see in this slide here that when we talk about Singularity Data Lake, it is not 100% driven only on security outcomes. Yes, security is obviously a massive component, and it will be a huge driver as to potentially some of your needs. However, you can see that the platform gives you flexibility to look at areas in DevOps, engineering, IT, and security, and then also associate the roles to that. You might have a development group who needs access to certain types of analytics versus you have a SOC team who needs access to certain types of security data versus you have a cloud team who is managing performance and uptime of systems and services. So the value of bringing that all together means that you can have a consistent platform and skills transfer across all of those different departments. And so we wrap that with what we call Singularity Data Lake. And so essentially what we're trying to do here is transform both security operations and IT operations into being cost-effective, highly performant, while still providing the visibility and security that essentially you need to run your programs. All right. Now, I thought we'd just finish on this slide as we move into what the industry's saying. And so as part of our release strategy with our customers and partners, we naturally go on a controlled kind of release program. And so I wanted to share this list here with you, which is not the entire list of sources and integrations that we have. Of course, we have many more outside of this. However, as part of our engagement with our customers and partners, these are the top typical sources that we've been finding across the industry, which are making the most amount of sense, particularly from a security perspective, right? And so I'll just kind of outline the two sections here. As part of Security Data Lake, it gives you as customer or partner of SentinelOne the opportunity to run a managed ecosystem beyond just endpoint, right? And so in the top section, we've outlined which are the top sources which are also supported by our managed XDR capability, which is just about to come into preview and release here. So if you're an existing Vigilance customer, if you're interested in the Vigilance MDR program, certainly something that we can work with you and talk to you about how that works. The second ones down the bottom here, top most common additional, the ones that we tend to see in most customer environments, additional to the top section, right? And so these are the sort of common sources that we are seeing, have built great dashboards for, integrations with, and nice use case and workflow. So if any of these kind of sit within your environment today and you want to learn how you can make the most out of these with the SentinelOne platform, definitely recommend a follow-up conversation to that. The last piece here is there's been an explosion in data pipelining technologies, both for cost optimization, but also just the ingestion workflow of how we move data across the enterprise. And so, for example, if you're using a platform such as Cribble to do some of your pipelining technology, that is a great use case and integration for bringing that data into the SentinelOne data lake. And so I'll wrap there and we'll move on to the next section, which is going to be run by Prateek, and he's going to talk you through what's happening in the industry and what's the industry saying.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you everyone for making the time and joining the conversation with me, Jason, and Wayne here. So, as Jason laid the foundation of Singularity Data Lake, it's very important for us to understand, what was the need of a single unified data lake and what are the use cases it is going to solve us beyond the pain points that we are looking to solve using the Singularity or unified data lake. Any innovation, no matter how good it is of no use, or it will not become mainstream if there is no dire need to use this particular innovation. And as they also say that necessity is the mother of the invention, and this time we are not talking about an invention, we are rather talking about an innovation. you know the data lakes, the data storages is something that every tool, every product, every software has been using since a long time. It's just that all these data storages, or all the data that we have, or all the data that is being collected, is being stored in different silos in different platforms, because of which these platforms are not able to talk to each other. And even if some kind of integration existed between the platforms, these integrations were very much one to one, because of which there was a lot of challenges. And that's the reason this wave of consolidation and the need of consolidation started coming in and started becoming a lot more mainstream. So, as all of you have been in the industry since a long time, you have been seeing and observing this trend of consolidation in the last 5 to 6 years. The industry is consolidating. But the funny part is that even though when we say then the industry is consolidating, it is never consolidated. It is always going to be fragmented in terms of consolidation. That's the reason it's very important that we understand how can we go about a realistic consolidation than trying to achieve a very difficult goal of consolidating into one single vendor, which is definitely not possible. So right now, organizations are not only looking at consolidation at the front end, at the UI, but they're also looking at consolidation at the back end, where all the data coming from different places can be stored in one place, so that data analytics can be performed on it. So it's not that they are only looking at integrating the workflow at the UI level, but they are very much looking at the back-end level. At the same time, as we are talking about digital businesses where things are, and the entire workflows are very tightly integrated, in security as well, the security leaders are looking for integrated controls that also share telemetry with each other for a specific use case, not that only the tools are working in silo. And as Jason pointed out in the beginning about the siloed data, and pointed out the survey result where 69% of the security leaders, said that they had missed detection because of siloed data storages. And we do commonly see this in security operations center as well. Your EDR data goes to some other data backend, your email data goes to another backend, your SIM data is in another backend, cloud logs go to another backend, and it creates a lot of gaps, because of which a lot of detections fall between the cracks, which only makes the job of a security operations center a lot more difficult. If you're not able to visualize this, just imagine, when you have 2 to 3 different laptops, your personal laptop, your office laptop, and then maybe another laptop that you may be carrying for other purposes, all the data in so many different laptops, and there is no one single screen where you can search it and see where this data may be. So it's very important that we break that silo and connect the disjointed solution, and that also led to single data lake. One other aspect I would say is that earlier the industry had a concept of cold data and warm data. After storing the hot data for a bit, then the data goes off for offline retention and whatnot. But because of this approach of hot, warm, and cold data, the decision making was very slow. And because of which the decision making was slow, because of the reason that cold data takes too long to make it hot and to derive intelligence out of it. Then what's the point of keeping the data when you are not able to derive intelligence out of it when need be. That's the reason, you need one single data lake, one single source of truth, and a live dashboard which tells you the moment an anomaly happens or occurs and surfaces it on the dashboard so that a suitable action can be taken. And these were some of the pain points and some of the industry level use cases that that the industry would benefit from the data lake architecture or single data lake architecture, to be precise. And it's very important that we also debunk the word consolidation, as I was alluding to as I was alluding to the fact that consolidation is understood differently in different circles, and most of the time it's understood, it's misunderstood more than it's understood correctly. So, just presenting a survey result from Gartner where the security leaders were surveyed on primary benefits of pursuing consolidation. And one of the biggest reasons why security leaders are looking at consolidation is improved overall organization risk posture. Yes, it is surprising that the cost or reduced spending on licensing is the least of the pull factor to pursue consolidation, which is very heartening if you ask me, because yes, we are focusing on the right reasons when we are pursuing consolidation and not just on, a reason which is a byproduct of the exercise and not the primary product of the exercise or the consolidation initiative. So that's the reason we should understand what is the best way of and what is the most effective way of performing a consolidation, which is a lot more practical at the same time. So, when you are going ahead with consolidation, first understand what is the objective of security consolidation? Why are you even doing it? So, we are very clear that most of the organizations are looking at improved overall organization risk posture. Then, when you are looking at consolidation, you have embarked upon the journey. The next thing that we should look at is use case identification. What is that you want to achieve, or what is the specific use case that you want to achieve? Do you want to integrate the entire threat detection and response workflow? Do you want to automate the access policies across different systems? Do you want to make sure the entire or the security of the entire cloud or software pipeline is taken care of? So identify the use case. Then look at performing security technology consolidation. So what is security technology consolidation? Is that look at, as organizations, we are taking the best of breed approach. The best of breed approach is the best approach to counter the attacks and counter the threat actors. So taking in account the same best of breed approach and looking at what all vendors and technologies can integrate with each other under one single platform, rather than just buying all the products from one single vendor, which is not going to be fruitful, which is only going to create more problem. And, with one single fall of one of the layers, everything can come down like a deck of cards. And then in the fourth stage, you can look at security vendor consolidation. Now that you have identified multiple technologies which can integrate with each other, then you see what all technologies can come from the same vendor. And if you had approximately, a survey result say that an organization has approximately 55 vendors, then it can bring down to a fewer number of vendors from 55 number of vendors which were completely disjointed to a lower number of vendors. And this is what I was talking about, use case. Not all the use cases can be accomplished with one single vendor. That's the reason we need to understand what is the use case that we are looking at, and then pursue the consolidation approach with technology consolidation and security consolidation. So now if you look at it, one of the main drivers of And main drivers of this innovation is the consolidation drive, the integration drive, and the tools that should work together with each other. And on this note, I'll pass it on to Wayne, who would also talk about the products and how this vision is realized in a product and a platform. Over to you, Wayne.
Thanks, Prateek, and thanks everyone for joining. So how is Sentinel-One, trying to help? How are we transforming this your security operations center with a single data center or data store, and applying some AI around that to speed up the how many incidents per hour you can triage, and then removing the human error where possible. So it's through this platform that we will transform security operations with AI to drive context, correlation, and also respond. So today, the new attacks based on generative AI and large language models are posing a new challenge for us, right? So we need to be able to respond to that. So these threat actors are now working, they always have been working at machine speed, but now it's very hard to spot. So we need to respond with, again, machine speed and our own generative AI on top of that, right? So most modern attacks now are increasing in complexity, and they run through various components. It's not just a piece of malware that runs on an endpoint. We now have a plethora of identity-based attacks. We now have endpoints or attack vectors through the cloud, firewalls, and your traditional endpoint, right? So having visibility into all of that real estate is really important. So it's imperative to ingest all of these data sources, and more importantly, to normalize these into a single platform to ensure simplified detection and hunting. And that's important because you don't really need all of your SOC analysts to learn all of the different syntaxes from all of the different products, especially if you have a new SOC analyst coming on board. It'll help improve the speed of enabling newer threat hunters. You just want to be able to search for a user. What has this user been doing at this time on that endpoint? And you need to have that data. I saw the user logging in. I saw the user on my SASE platform. I saw this user on my secure web gateway. My IDP says, they logged in at this time, right? So you shouldn't really have to teach them the context of all of the different platforms. It really needs to be normalized to improve that threat hunting experience. So this will help security teams rapidly respond to threats by guiding analysts through each step of the investigation, and then we can give you that data in a clear format in a single console. This will flatten the learning curve and ramp up new hires and allow security organizations to further deal with the increasing attacks. So once the security data is ingested and normalized, analysts will be able to hunt with standard queries, but also natural language. So as all of the data is now in one platform and it is normalized data, then we can start training or start using our generative AI platform to analyze that. So SOC analysts can use their own native language, whether that's English, South Korean, Japanese, to generate queries, and the system will transform that into power queries and then deliver really good results. Now, as SOC analysts, we'll get we'll see the query and it will be nicely formatted, and we can tweak that, right? So, that was not quite what I meant. So you still have the ability to go in and change a little bit of the tweaking, and you will have that query to then take to maybe a SOAR platform or an API integration. So you can ask queries and it will respond with nice queries that you can use elsewhere. So what does this look like? Let's look at it another way. The customers describe their investigation process and how they would investigate today. So for customer, say an example here, a customer is looking at a detection today, and they're looking at a behavioral storyline on the endpoint. And from there, they want to pivot to see, evidence of what's happening, or any of those ISCs from that storyline is happening anywhere else in the environment. And they might just be, just that endpoint. But then they'll need to pivot to see what is the identity doing, what other users are involved. Does this user have additional privilege that they shouldn't have? Have the groups changed recently? Are there any vulnerabilities associated with that user, right? And you start going away from the endpoint. Any behavioral indications for that user logging into disparate systems. And then they might have connectivity through to your cloud environment, right? So then you start pivoting into the cloud environment. All of this time when you're hunting, you're not leaving the platform, you're getting telemetry from the cloud solution, with AWS, GCP, Azure, or your own, cloud environment. And then you can start saying, okay, well, now I'm hunting and I'm start getting pings from Zscaler or Netscope or your, secure web gateway or your IDP, and then basically it follows the trail to work out where that attack came from, or the scope, or the blast radius of this attack. And this comprehensive SOC workflow must be really hard to set up, right? And not so. So we've launched the Marketplace 2.0, which is a simple wizard-driven data lake ingestion platform, right? We've made it almost like a shop. So you get a full list of the applications. It's not a completely full list. You can ingest almost any data, but we've given you nice little icons showing you what applications are there and how to ingest those. So for cloud-based security integrations to the marketplace, all you really need is for cloud to cloud is basically generate an API key in the connecting platform, and you add them to the Singularity platform. You may use Sentinel-1 into the system, and then you've got bi-directional sharing between those platforms with a few configuration settings of what you want to happen, whether that's automated or manual. Then you can click connect, and effectively they're connected. So for cloud to cloud. For on-prem solutions, where we have a range of other solutions like syslogging, other logging options, or just direct API actions, you can get the data into Sentinel-1, and we have a lot of parsers to normalize that data. So, and I didn't mention, like, when I mean normalized to the open cybersecurity framework, which is kind of a unified taxonomy for logging, so that when you're looking for a user, the format is the same, whether it's an IDP or a secure web gateway. So we have compatibilities in the marketplace, or different types of actions. So we have ingestion, so you can ingest the data into Sentinel-1. We can enrich, so that will bring the data into maybe an incident, so you can enrich an incident. We have automation. We have inbuilt automation into Sentinel-1, so simple actions like reset a password, move a user to a restricted group, and things like that, right? So most SOAR vendors, most SOAR implementations that we see have one action. Like, customers have implemented one or two actions. There are some customers that have extended SOAR operations, but if you only have one action, then something like a Sentinel-1's XDR platform and Singularity Data Lake it's fit for choice. It's fit for purpose because we have all of those built in. Change passwords and things like that. We also have a mechanism to send like hashes or actually files to sandboxes to explode, and we also have third-party hosted integration. So right, it's a full suite of integrations with our technology partners. So what is the kind of the 5 key aspects of modernizing and automating a SOC? So data ingestion, right? That's really key. So bringing this data in and normalizing it to the OCSF framework, and then powering detections using that streamlined detection, right? So bringing that in and then applying some detections across that. Correlate those detections across Sentinel-1 and partner products, providing things like attack paths, permission maps, and which significantly reduces the work required by analysts. I mean, just things like good use cases are, I just want to know when my domain admin changes or my privilege groups, right? So you can just build that those queries into the platform, because all of your identities are baked in. That could be an administrative or an admin change in Okta or Zscaler or on endpoints, right? Or even on a domain controller, right? So you can build those kind of use cases across your ecosystem. Triage and investigation. So lead with correlating multiple events into prioritized incidents, right? So not just incidents, events coming up. They are correlated to produce the least amount of incidents. And when you go into an incident, all of the events are correlated for you in there. So enabling security teams to quickly understand and organize and understand the organization's risk level. Hunting and investigation. So once you've triaged, hunting and investigation is something that's ongoing. So enable the SecOps teams to, hunt first or third-party insights, telemetry, and then, as I mentioned earlier, leverage the generative AI capabilities of Purple AI to ask simple questions and turn them into powerful queries. And then kind of sprinkle threat intelligence across this data. So we're adding context and attribution to the TTPs and the ISEs we see, right? So sometimes the machines, static AI and behavioral AI will give you a response, and sometimes it's hard to attribute, where that's coming from or the intent of the attacker. And if we can, mark or match that with a threat actor by using threat intelligence, then maybe we'll get some intent, and maybe that risk level will go up or go down based on that. So applying some human threat intelligence across the top kind of rounds out that thought. And then, as I mentioned, the power of AI and security. So, we have a really strong history in static AI and then behavioral AI, and then building on top of this security data lake, we have a large model generative AI. So it basically simplifies, the SOC workflow by applying natural language, and up levels your analysts by guiding hunts and applying things like notebooks. So when you're running these sorts of queries, being able to correlate all of the queries that you've asked, all the responses, and then collating that into a playbook or a run book, so you can use later. And that's it from me. Jace,
Awesome.
do you want to take the questions?
Yep. No, we're back. So we've just had a bit of a poll come out. So if you just want a multiple choice, select what's your current security data lake product. Just interested to do a little bit of a survey across the audience, and we'll obviously review that a little bit later. So I'll just leave it there for a second. Let's see, a handful. Whilst you're filling in that, I think it's also to just remind everyone that as part of your SentinelOne license entitlement, you also automatically get access to the ingest platform. And so there's 10 GB a day, which doesn't sound like much, but it's a good way to start your analysis of the security data lake operating model. And so if you're not aware of that, there you go. You're aware of it now. So there's 10 GB included. And if you haven't thought about how you can make the most out of that, definitely recommend setting up some time with your account team and SE team and kind of talking through the options and opportunities to make the most out of that availability. All right, we've had a bunch come back, so we'll move on from there. Okay, so we're going to get into a bit of a fireside chat now. So if you guys have questions that you'd like us to cover, please just pop them in the Q&A section. We're going to start with a couple that I've had and questions that we've had from customers over the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to start with you, Pratik. Always a fun one. Is probably usually the first question I get asked when we're working with customers is the acronym soup, the alphabet soup that goes around. What does this mean, and where is the industry heading? If you're thinking of, you've got XDR, SIEM, data lake, SOAR, MDR, EDR, pick anything and put an R on the end of it. It kind of sounds like sometimes. Could you make sense of it for us and sort of give us a view on where the industry's heading? Oh, you're on mute though, I think. We might have lost you.
Maybe I'll take it, and then Pratik can come through when he's.
Yeah,
why not? Look, I think they've I think that's just the evolution of the technology stack. Everyone had the scene to start with, or just a logging platform, and then we all try to get our logs into one server, and then we were just trying to fill that up, right? So somewhere to put your logs for compliance reasons, and then we were wondering what to do with this data, right? So I think that's where Saul came in. It's like, right, I have all this data. What do I do now? So trying to orchestrate my security tools or your security tools. And then we realized that once we have all this SIEM data or logging data and we have some orchestration, it kind of leads to the evolution, which is the next obvious step. Sometimes when we talk about, who invented zero trust, it was the evolution. It was the next obvious step, right? No one invented it. It just, I was doing it 10 years before it was invented, because customers asked me to do it, right? So we're all part of this evolution, and XDR came out of that. So extended detection response. So we now have the detections from endpoints. Then I want to know what my users doing. Now I want to do it with my firewalls. So where did this come in? How did this? And I want to apply some context around that. So, and to generate or to do that properly, you really need all your data in one place, and you need to normalize that. So kind of the birth of the security data lake, right? So, I say it's sort of threat-centric information, and Jason calls it intelligent-centric, information. They're both relevant, right? You can choose whatever you want to put in, but applying, I think security data lake, XDR is just the next evolution of our space, right? Security practices.
Yep, I agree. Pratik, did we get your audio back or not quite? No, don't think so. All right. We'll keep going while we try and figure out some of that. We've got a couple of questions actually in the Q&A, so there's a couple of good ones here. We might start with Bill's. Are connections to Netscope, e.g. to Netscope, also included in the 10 GB free tier? So I might try that one, Wayne. And so Bill and everyone, there's a couple of ways that we do integrations, right? And so we categorize them in three, pillars. So we have enrichment, ingestion, and response, right? And so as part of the 10 GB, it is whatever data source that you feel is most appropriate for that, right? Aligned to those three pillars. And so, for example, when you go into the marketplace, you will see applications have different types of integrations that you can have. And so, for example, if you wanted Netscope to enrich your endpoint detections, that doesn't necessarily count towards your 10 GB. You can do that without it consuming data from an ingest perspective. If you're wanting to get the sort of telemetry and logs and things that you can go and search within Netscope from historical perspective, that's what would contribute to the 10 GB. So it just depends on your use case, but some of it is completely separate and some of it contributes to the 10 GB. All right, we have another one here from Phil. Where does your recent partnership with Mandiant fit into the threat intel for the S1 security data lake, and is it automatically included? Wayne, I might give you that question, or particularly.
No problem. So I guess if it is a partnership. Obviously, Mandiant and Google, who now own Mandiant, that they're not going to give away their stuff for free. So as long as you're subscribed to the SKU from us, then it will be included. So it is actually baked into the product. It's not just a bolt-on. So when you look at an incident, and there's some ISEs or TTPs in there, you can see that correlated with the Mandiant information on the right-hand side. So you'll see what they think. So if there's ISEs in there related to Wizard Spider, then they might come up with some information about Wizard Spider and where these TTPs are used and how they're used. So again, trying to sprinkle some threat intelligence through this so you can attribute. Obviously that, attribution is always hard, right? So just trying to glean the intent is sometimes enough. But yeah, so we bring in that threat intelligence. We can actually enrich our security data lake information as well. And if there seems to be a correlation with the threat intel with something that's in the data lake, we can actually generate incidents on behalf. So it does actually improve the detections, the cloud-based detections in the platform.
Awesome. Thanks, Wayne. And I think just to add to that, Phil, if you have, if you're subscribed to Mandiant through Mandiant externally already, then we can bring that into the SentinelOne platform, through the marketplace as well. So either it would be subscribed through the SKU that we have available for threat intelligence, or if you're already subscribed through Mandiant, then we can bring that in, no problem. All right, next question. I think we might have Prateek back, which is good.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. Welcome back. All right, we're going to throw this one to you. There's a really interesting phrase that Gartner came out with this year, like they do every year. But I feel like this year they coined human-centric security. And so it's a little bit of an oxymoron sometimes when we're in this world of automation and hyper-automation, and we're all talking about AI and machine learning, and then human-centric has come out as the #1 trend. So what does that mean, and how does it apply to this conversation around extended detection response?
Absolutely. And, I think, Jason, the very first question you had was on the word soup. So now you know the source of the word soup, from where all these new acronyms come in, right? And my ex-employer definitely keeps me very busy with the new acronyms, that are being termed and how to get a good understanding of it. But this is something I would say is certainly very important, because in the last 5 to 10 years, there is a narrative that humans are the weakest control in cybersecurity. Whenever there is a breach, whenever there is a security incident, it's very convenient for a lot of leaders, or it's very convenient to put the blame on the users, when even though we may have done the role of empowering them or making them aware or train them, but we are never looking at understanding the effectiveness of the training programs and the awareness program and the initiatives that we have taken to empower them. So that's where the human-centric security term was coined. So this initiative is looking at reducing the friction from adopting the controls in various business processes, even on the endpoint side, or even on the end user side, where we are using endpoint security or EDR or endpoint detection, or even security awareness for that matter. So it is to make sure that there is, security is not seen as a friction. It is something which is seen as very seamless, integrated into the daily work life, so that they don't have to consciously think about it and look at identifying the ways to bypass it. One of the examples I would say is that if you look at security awareness trainings, and I'm sure a lot of you would be able to relate to it. People just log onto a security awareness training. They just do click, 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 click. And then at the end, when you have a questionnaire or a quiz, they randomly try to select the answer based on the hit and miss ratio. They reattempt it and they just pass it. It is just for the compliance purposes, because a lot of these content is outdated. So that's the reason, this security awareness program should also be kept updated and should be constantly updated with how threat actors are using newer and innovative ways to get into your organization, so that the end user community feels that they are empowered and they are getting a new learning out of it. And so many such measures where security becomes very seamless and very user friendly, then becoming a blocker or being perceived as a blocker.
Yeah, totally makes sense. I mean, I think the notion of shadow IT has always been a challenge, no matter what time or geo you're in. And so I think it makes sense to prioritize embracing the user rather than trying to beat them with the stick all the time, right? All right, moving on. Wayne, I'm going to come back to you from a platform side. And guys, please, again, if you've got more questions, pop them in. It's a good couple of ones earlier. Why why is architecture important, right? Single agent, single console, both from a economics, operation, and a security view. We've obviously made some very important architectural decisions from a platform perspective. Why is it important? Like, what are the benefits there for our customers?
Yeah, on like real estate and performance, right? So it's performance across the board. Performance of the agent. Obviously, you want most organizations don't do cybersecurity for a living. They do something else, so they want the machine to be able to perform very well. I mean, that's the nature of our static AI and behavioral AI. Is the machines are really good at processing them, which means that we don't have to, index or manage, large DAT files of yesteryear. That gives us some efficiencies. It also reduces our attack surface. All right, we have one agent that we need to protect, and then we can, manage that fully. Obviously, a single console is good because the DevOps team don't have to learn multiple consoles. They don't have to switch between consoles. So that's what we've seen before. Is you'd have a detection in your EDR platform, and then that looks like is an identity-based attack. This is LSAS. I will log the IDP and switch to that console, log into that console, and block that user, or switch or reset their password. And you might add some human error to that, right? So you might lock the wrong person out, and you switch back to this console. It's performance of the human. And then you're tiring the human out, and then human error comes in, right? So again, performance of that. And then it allows us to apply algorithms or statistical analysis or, machine learning, whatever you want to call it, or even generative AI across that so that we can, process that quickly as well. So yeah, performance. And it also means that, the customers just have to roll one endpoint, and they get good protection on the endpoint, visibility, vulnerabilities, identity-based detection. So yeah, it's a great outcome for everyone.
Yeah, I think the two things I always pick up on is that modern architecture just gives you flexibility, right? It's a license activation for different modules and parts of products these days, at least the modern platforms are. I think the second really important point that you touched on is the skills, right? In no business does anyone ever have enough people and resources to do the day-to-day, let alone handle security. And so I think the application of one place to learn and one place to get multiple outcomes is obviously beneficial from a skills perspective, but then having Purple and generative AI platforms attached to that gives us a little buddy on the side that helps us be more efficient. So
yeah, there've been a few cases recently where the attacker got through the human control. They managed to get some malware into a signed version of a VoIP app, and it didn't bypass the machine. The machine was flagging as malicious, and then we were getting calls from customers saying, "Why are you blocking my signed, validated version of my VoIP app?" And it took a little while for even our MDR team, for me, for the industry to realize that it was supply chain compromise, right? So the humans were compromised, the machines weren't. Being able to have the machines, detect for us and remove that human error is really important.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be us or them. It can be better together, right? Humans and machines.
Of course.
Cool. We've probably got time for one more question. So we'll go to question number 4, and we'll come back to you, Pratik, for the industry view. So no secret, Gartner Magic Quadrant, MITRE ATT&CK framework, testing. So those two organizations do different levels of assessments, specifically really focused in on endpoint and EDR technologies. Do you expect, XDR or the security kind of data lake movement to start to influence both of those evaluation types and really take over as the primary measurement? Like, what's your view on where that part of the industry is going?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I would say Gartner has already started taking into account the XDR strategies and the roadmap that each and every vendor has and the kind of approach that they're following. open, closed, hybrid, and whatnot into account for Gartner Magic Quadrant evaluation. It has not become a very primary factor for to perform all the scoring and evaluation, but in terms of weighting a vendor on the basis of the innovation, so XDR strategies and roadmap and the approach are certainly being taken into account. So yes, it is certainly being adopted, and the reception is there with Gartner as well. In terms of MITRE, one good thing about MITRE, I feel, is that they keep it very open to what all technologies that you can bring on the table or you would want to bring on the table for the evaluation. And one thing I do not like about MITRE is that they do not test the response capabilities in terms of after detecting the attack, how fast and how quickly can you respond to an attack across different layers. So in terms of detecting the attack, multiple sensors can be implemented from a vendor, and then right now the detection is only being showcased and evaluated based on the EDR, whether the EDR is catching this attack or not. But now, as we are moving towards more holistic, unified platform, as Wayne was also talking about in XDR, then we would see how quickly an attack is discovered, or even if the alert got generated later, but when was the first point of, or what was the entry vector for this attack? Show us that entry vector as well after your XDR platform has been able to do the correlation. So it will not just be about detection, but it will also be how soon and at what stage of the attack were you able to detect this attack, and at what vector. So that will also, I expect that MITRE will start evaluating as they are also going through progression and evolution in their testing methodology and test benches.
Got it. Makes sense. All right, we're going to finish on one last question, and we're just going to skip one because we're a little bit tight on time. Wayne, I'm going to start with you just to leave the audience with some ideas and something to think about, and then Pratik, I'll come to you, and then we'll wrap up the session. So Wayne, to you first. What are 3 important questions to ask your vendors and suppliers when, as a customer or partner, you're engaging on an XDR and security data lake project? Oh, I think we've lost your audio now. Or are you on mute?
No, I just muted myself. I guess I thought the vein that I talked about earlier was normalizing the data, right? So if you've ever worked with SIEMs over the years, you get a lot of data in, then you have to build complicated queries to knit all this stuff together. Having the OCSF framework, working with it for even such a short time as like 6 to 9 months, it's breathtakingly easy, right? What was this user doing? And then you get all of that data. So normalizing that data, and then the speed of queries, right? So getting some queries in and then getting a response in a humanly usable amount of time. Writing a query and then waiting for 4 hours for a response is just, it's too long these days. You're being attacked at machine speed. You need the platform to respond almost instantaneously. Within reason, but within a coffee, I guess, are very big queries. But speed of response is important, and normalization would be my 2 big ones.
Awesome, thanks, Wayne. Pratik, what 2 or 3 questions would you be asking?
So one important question I would be asking is that what kind of data can you store in data lake? Is it just the structured data that can be stored, or can it become a single source of truth by storing all kind of information and all kind of data in this data lake or not? The second question I would say is very important, because data storage is one thing, but it's equally important that we are able to retrieve the data when in need. It shouldn't happen that I need the data today and the data retrieval is happening, it's taking a long time, 2 hours, 3 hours to run the query and whatnot. And then the, data resurfaces. So it's important that we understand how quickly you are able to retrieve the data so that you can make use of it and derive intelligence out of it. The third one, I would also say that, data lake is definitely something very good, but when it comes to doing the monitoring at a high level using a management console or dashboard, is your dashboard in line with the data which is in the data lake? Or, as in when the data is being ingested, are you able to see the insights of it on a dashboard or not? Or does it usually take 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour after the data has been ingested for the insights to show up? Because if it's delayed, you can imagine a fault or a security incident which went unnoticed for 1 hour would have wreaked havoc already in the network, and it would have increased the recovery time. It would increase the business losses, and we cannot afford to increase the business losses and business recovery time in a digital business scenario where things are happening very fast. So we should certainly look at these important aspects about how fast we can ingest, retrieve, and look at the data and derive the intelligence out of it.
Got it. Thank you, guys. So to wrap that, Wayne, how the ingestion normalization using the open cybersecurity framework, obviously speed of analytics and querying. There's no point running a system that takes hours to return responses, particularly on complex, large amounts of data. What types of data can you ingest? Does it have to be only structured? Can it be unstructured? And how easy it obviously is it to get in, and then obviously the user experience on top of that, right? Having live actionable insights rather than a swamp, I guess, is the alternative where data goes to die rather than being usable.
And as Pratik said, good response actions as well. So when you get an incident, being able to quite quickly, I'm not really sure I'm going to reset the user's password from a range of IDPs, or block a user in their secure web gateway of choice. Just with a couple of clicks is really powerful and very efficient.
Just don't detect the fire, put out the fire at the same time, from the same console.
That's right. Yeah. All right, we're coming to the end of the webinar, so we'll just finish off with this last poll just to help us follow up with you after the webinar. So if you'd like us to contact you to organise a follow-up meeting to go through anything that we've discussed today, please just let us know. As we said, you already have an entitlement of 10 GB per day, so it would make a lot of sense to make the most of that availability and make the most of your investment. So more than happy to set up some time with you to get that going. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Pratik. Great session. Lots of awesome insights. Thanks for the attendees jumping on. A couple of great questions there, and we'll speak with you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, everyone.